Minivans may not be as cool as they once were, but the fact remains, there is no other type of vehicle as versatile as a van. Sure, some modern crossovers do come close, but I haven't seen one yet with removable reconfigurable seating, built-in vacuum cleaners, power doors, intercom systems, and the list could go on and on. Not a whole lot of brands still compete in this segment, so today we have pretty much the only other options outside of the questionably reliable Chrysler Pacifica, both receiving substantial updates this year. The market may be changing, but for those of you unwilling to compromise on utility, let's see which one of these redesigned vans is the ultimate family vehicle. So since minivans are practical above all else, for this comparison we chose the middle two trims that offer the most bang for the buck. Starting out with the Sienna, you can have one for as little as $30,750, but the XLE starts out at $36,990. From there we have the only package available, the navigation package, and a few other tiny accessories. Add in destination, and the total price tag is $39,713. For the Odyssey, things are pretty similar. It starts out at a hair under $30K, but we have the mid-level EX-L for $37,360. However, like all Hondas, there are no options to add, so with destination, our total is $38,300. That puts our price difference at $1,400. Owed almost entirely to the navigation package that our Sienna has. So for fairness sake, I will disregard that aspect when we get to that point in the video. Now that we've established our baseline, let's determine which one is superior. This comparison is going to cover everything, both small and large, so we'll start off with the key fobs. On the Sienna you have a large silver key fob that has extra buttons for the power doors and tailgate. The Honda has pretty much the same thing, but with the important addition of remote start. Additionally, the fob itself does feel more premium, so Honda will take the first point. Both of them do have smart entry, so you just grab the handle to unlock the doors. So before we move into the interior, we'll first work our way around the outside. What's under the hood is not a top minivan concern, but it's still very important for everyday livability. Both models have new 3.5-liter V6 engines, but in the Sienna you get class-leading power at 296 versus 280 horsepower. On the flip side, the transmission of the Odyssey has an extra gear, at 9 speeds instead of 8 speeds on the Sienna. But one important thing to note is that the Toyota can be had with all-wheel drive, something that neither the Odyssey nor any other minivan for that matter can be. As far as fuel economy is concerned, they both achieve the same combined result, despite having different ways of getting there. The Odyssey is rated at 19 city, 28 highway, 22 combined, and the Sienna at 19 city, 27 highway, 22 combined. Well, that's a real quick rundown of the powertrains, so now let's move on to the exterior designs and features. Now of course minivans are not the most stylish machines, but nonetheless we'll start off by evaluating the overall looks. Starting with the Swagger Wagon, it has always been on the more stylish side of things since this generation was first introduced. For 2018, the grille has been redesigned to be bigger and look more in line with the current crop of Toyotas, but overall the style is mostly left intact. Moving to the Odyssey, it is all new this year, but the styling still doesn't stray far from the outgoing model. The grille has a simpler design than the Sienna, but it still has enough chrome to catch your attention. That chrome carries into the headlights, which are projector beam halogens with LED daytime running lights. The Sienna too has halogen headlights, but it is missing LED daytime running lights on this trim. You do, however, have fog lamps on both models. My overall verdict is that while neither are pretty, the Odyssey looks like the more upscale of the two, with the more intricate design in the grille and the headlights. As far as the other parts of the cars go, the Odyssey definitely pushes the envelope more, with swoops and waves all down the side. And while the Sienna sticks with the more traditional window line, the Honda has the unique characteristic of a floating roof design. This all gives it a more interesting design, but the execution is questionable. Since the choice is either boring or funky, neither will get the point here. While we're in the back, let's talk towing. The Sienna can handle up to 3,500 pounds, while the Odyssey tops out at 3,000. Now let's start working our way around to all the features and specs. The Sienna is the more maneuverable of the two, with a 2-foot smaller turning circle, but that may have something to do with the smaller wheels that it sports. While I like the Sienna's contrast design, 17 inches is simply too small for a vehicle this big. The Honda's 18 inches are a better fit. Both have ventilated disc brakes in the front and solid disc brakes in the rear. Moving to the mirrors, both cars have heating and power adjustability. They both also have blind spot monitoring, the Toyota's in the mirror and the Honda's located on the inside of the pillar. As far as warranties go, they both have 3-year 36,000 mile bumper-to-bumper warranties, and 5-year 60,000 mile powertrain warranties. However, the Toyota will get the point here, because it gives you 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance, which Honda does not offer. But, much more important than that are the safety ratings, and these two both deliver strong performances. The Odyssey aces every single test, including the passenger side small front overlap, headlights, and emergency auto braking. The Sienna hasn't yet gone through the entire gauntlet of testing, but for 2017 it also did very well. Additionally, they both also include numerous active safety features, such as automatic emergency braking, lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, and auto high beam headlights. These are all great things to have, especially in a minivan. Wrapping things up on the outside, we have the fuel tanks. The Odyssey's is 19.5 gallons, good for 429 miles of range, while the Sienna's is 20 gallons and good for 440 miles of range. Both use regular unleaded fuel. Well, that's it for all the exterior stuff, so now let's move on to the more important part, the cabin. At first glance inside the interiors, you can already tell that these vans were made for ultimate utility. In both cases, we have fairly light colored leather interiors, gray on the Odyssey and beige on the Sienna. The seats themselves are 8-way power adjusting on the Toyota, but 12-way power adjusting on the Honda. Both are multi-stage heated, but only the Odyssey comes with 2-person memory. So first looking around the cabins, they both look pretty similar in overall appearance. As far as materials go, they're both also pretty luxurious. Starting in the Odyssey, the entire upper dash is composed of a soft touch rubberized material with stitching. And then you have silver trim and more soft touch plastic below. Everything else fits together well. For the Sienna, you have padded leather on the upper part and hard touch plastic. All the middle areas, though, are leather, and you have some faux wood trim. Other than that, everything feels as solid as the Odyssey. But when we get to the door trims, there's a more substantial difference. On the Odyssey, you only have leather on the armrest, and the middle part, including the door handle, is a really cheap looking matte black plastic. The Sienna has extensive use of leather, and the fake wood is still better than nothing. The materials point goes to the Toyota. On both models, press the button to go. When you do, an 8-inch display will start up on the Odyssey and a 7-inch one on the Sienna. The actual software will be evaluated later. Looking at the gauges, both are nice, but the Honda's has a larger and more high-tech display. Both minivans come with electric rack and pinion power steering, fed through leather-wrapped multifunction steering wheels. They both manually tilt and telescope. Off to the side, they both have tons of buttons, but the Odyssey does have an electronic parking brake and brake hold feature that the Toyota is missing. Next up, we have the critical component of storage, and obviously they both have a ton of it. Since they have detached armrests, the entire middle area is dedicated to storage. The Sienna seems like it may be a little bit larger. They both also have giant empty spaces up here, great for purses or diaper bags, so overall I'd call it even. All this storage is made possible by shifters mounted high and out of the way, electronic on the Odyssey. Surprisingly, they both do allow for manual shifting, and the Odyssey even has paddle shifters. When in reverse, a standard backup camera pops up. The Honda has trajectory and 3 different views, while the Toyota's just has super basic distance markers. Next up, we have the climate, 3-zone automatic on both vans. There is, however, an important difference between the two, and that is in the controls. All the Toyota's buttons are mounted in one cluster for quick and easy access, while things like the Honda's zones must be changed through a menu on the screen. I understand this way looks sleeker, but in a minivan, practicality is king. Now let's hear some audio samples. Even though the Odyssey only has one extra speaker, I think it sounds noticeably better. And now that brings us to the brand new Entune 3.0 system and brand new Hondalink System, so let's dig in. Starting with the Sienna, we have a home screen where we can click on different things to expand them. The graphics and performance have both improved a lot versus last year. You have handy shortcut buttons along the sides, and the apps button brings you to all the other functions. You have all the regular phone stuff, but the app suite can only be accessed by connecting a smartphone and using the Entune app. Unfortunately, that app suite does not include Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, effectively forcing you to buy the extra cost navigation. The last noteworthy feature is a Wi-Fi hotspot powered by Verizon. The Hondalink system has undergone a lot of the same changes, with much improved graphics and performance. All the apps live on the home screen, 2 of which are Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. These are items people expect nowadays, and the Sienna still doesn't have. Otherwise, we have more or less the same thing, except for some cool extra features like social playlists. Wi-Fi hotspot does not come on this trim, but overall this is still the better of the 2 systems. Both models have auto-dimming rearview mirrors with universal remotes, the Odyssey's frameless and the Sienna's with a compass. They both also have mirrors for keeping an eye on the kids, and standard size power moonroofs. So overall, the front of the cabins are practically a draw. They both feature absolutely enormous amounts of space, plenty of tech, and are surprisingly luxurious for only mid-level models. But now let's see if one of them can pull ahead in the rear. Of course, the doors are powered like I already mentioned. Looking inside, you will see enormous space in both. The Sienna measures in at 37.6 inches of legroom and 39.7 inches of headroom, but the Odyssey edges it out with 40.9 inches of legroom and 39.5 inches of headroom. You don't need them, but both have grab handles. Neither of them have much of a door trim design, but they do both have rear sunshades. As far as the actual climate controls go, they both have vents and ceiling mounted climate controls. In the middle, both vans have two charging USBs, which are slightly higher voltage on the Honda, but the Toyota also has a household outlet. As equipped, neither of them have rear seat entertainment, but it is available for those of you who don't mind spending another grand or so. Now let's talk about how adjustable the seats are. Both can do the standard sliding and reclining, but the Odyssey includes the cool feature of sliding left to right. So if you have the middle seat removed, you can now choose any configuration that suits you, such as sliding one seat over to make a huge pathway to the third row. Getting into the third row in the Sienna is also easy, but it's not that easy. For the actual measurements, the Odyssey again has more legroom, at 38.1 inches versus 36.3 inches. In practice, they feel about the same as each other, both being significantly more comfortable than their crossover cohorts. There are cup holders, vents, and in the case of the Sienna, even third row sunshades. Moving around to the rear, both vans have power tailgates. Once they open, you'll find consistently more space in the Sienna across the board. With the third rows in place, it has 39.1 cubic feet versus 32.8 in the Odyssey. With those seats folded, it is 87.1 versus 86.6. And with the second row seats removed entirely, the maximum is 150 cubic feet in the Sienna to 140.7 cubic feet in the Odyssey. As far as actually folding the third row seats, both are super easy and can be done with only one hand. The last things I'll mention are the four-way power passenger seats on both, and the larger two-tiered glove box on the Sienna. Well, with that, we conclude this in-depth comparison video. As you can see, these two are very similar in most regards, so I honestly think these two would be very satisfactory vehicles for you and your family. Thanks for joining us on this Car Confections comparison, and be sure to subscribe for more comparisons and our full review videos. See you next time when we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.